Am I the asshole? For telling my coworker that her comments were inappropriate, and rejecting her offer to help? I am 32, am currently 8 months pregnant with my first, which my husband am 33 and I are absolutely thrilled about. I am nearing my maternity leave not in the US, for reference, and I was in the office this week to try and finalize all the little loose ends before I am off. I am primarily a remote worker, so while the team has grown quite rapidly over the past few months, and I have not had an opportunity to meet every new starter in person. That means there were a lot of new faces in this week, and I enjoyed chatting to them. Now, it is quite obvious that I am pregnant, and my maternity leave has been spoken about quite a bit within the team as I am handing over all of my projects, so new starters have spoken to me about the pregnancy while I was in the office. This is no issue, happy to chat about the baby and our preparations, but I was made quite uncomfortable by one interaction this week. Susan F40 started 3 weeks ago, and I am handing some of my work over to her while I am gone. I have met her a few times over Teams, but she saw me in person for the first time on Tuesday. She was asking lots of questions about the pregnancy, and detailed quite graphically her birth story. It was a bit odd, but I tried to move the discussion on. That is when she said, and I will quote her, "I am not speaking as your colleague, I am talking as your friend. If you ever feel or notice something odd, please feel free to reach out. This could be cramping, or bleeding, or your water breaking. Even if you need someone to help coach you as you prepare for birth." To be clear, we are engineers and Susan has no medical background. I was so freaked out, why would she offer this kind of help, and why would I call essentially a total stranger and discuss personal details about my body? We have been totally professional up until this point, and this was my first time even meeting her in person. I told Susan that I appreciated the thought, but I had a fantastic team of doctors and a very supportive family, so I was okay. Then Susan said, "It is sometimes easier to talk to someone who has been through it, so please call me even if it is the middle of the night and you don't want to wake your husband." I told Susan that I was getting uncomfortable because this was not an appropriate discussion for work, and I would appreciate if we could stick to project-related topics only from now on. Susan seemed quite upset and has subsequently been avoiding me at the office and taking much longer to get back to emails. I mentioned what was going on to my mom, and she said that I was too harsh when Susan was clearly only looking to bond with me and this was the only way she knew how. My mom said I should have told her that the office wasn't the place, but I should not have shut down her offer to help. She said maybe Susan was trying to make a female friend at work and just came off a bit weird. So, was I the AH? You were neither harsh nor rude. You informed Susan about your boundaries which she kept pushing. Not the asshole. Wishing you a safe delivery, a healthy baby, and a smooth recovery. Susan is definitely a weirdo. I'm feeling creeped out just reading what she said. It's probably best she's upset and now avoiding you. If you hadn't said to her that her comments were inappropriate and making you feel uncomfortable, think how much worse she could potentially get going forward. If that's how Susan is meeting a work colleague for the first time, think what she'd be like after a few weeks. LOL. Not the asshole. If you're uncomfortable, you're uncomfortable. It's not a bad thing to set boundaries. That being said, this makes me curious if Susan may have had a bad experience and wants to support others. Miscarriages and stillbirths are so much more common than people realize, and many women families just don't talk about it when it happens. Pure speculation, but perhaps she just wants to make sure you have someone to talk to through a stressful time. Either way, just because she wants to support you doesn't mean you should say yes to her offer. Solid, not the asshole. Nah. Well done for standing up for your boundaries when she was making you uncomfortable. You did so in a polite way, so you can't be an AH in this situation. I also don't think there was any malice behind Susan's comments. If I had to guess, she probably didn't have a strong support system and didn't feel comfortable talking about all the gory pregnancy birth details, and I say this 8 weeks postpartum myself with her husband, so she's reaching out to you to try and provide you with what she didn't have. It's misguided but ultimately kind, so she's not TA either. NaH, just a little socially inept. You didn't have to accept her offer, you just realize this for what it is, a bid to connect over a shared experience. You say thank you and just don't reach out for help. This didn't need to be awkward, but you made it awkward. Not the asshole. I don't think Susan is the AH for trying to offer you support, but she is the AH for getting upset when you told her she was pushing your boundaries. Was kind of waiting for her to say something awful, but it seems like she was just saying, if you need anything at all, just let me know. Is that unprofessional? Nah. You obviously aren't the AH. But Susan isn't either. Sure, she was coming off a little too familiar for someone who you've only known for a few weeks and never met in person before. But it does seem like she was just trying to be helpful and friendly, even if she went about it the wrong way. I think the feedback your mom gave you is actually right on the money. Not the asshole. There might be any number of reasons for her behavior. Perhaps she has some unresolved trauma from her own birth and is trying to resolve it in a weird and clumsy way. You're not her therapist, you're her colleague, and you acted reasonably in telling her so. That was completely rude of her. First, the audacity in assuming she's your friend. Second, being through something doesn't automatically make her an expert. Third, does she know this is your first child? Assuming it is, you don't say in your post if it is. And fourth, why would she assume that you wouldn't want to wake your husband if your water broke? Although to be fair, I don't have any kids, so maybe that would be a reasonable assumption. There are more classy ways to bond without being intrusive. I'm actually going to lean to NH. She wasn't trying to be malicious. Many women's spouses don't want to hear the details, or they're not very supportive. Doctors don't typically warn pregnant women of atypical issues, preeclampsia, cholestasis, etc. And it's often through "hey, watch out for XYZ" that it's even brought up. She may also have been trying to just check in on you as a person, but going about it the wrong way. Not that your husband is abusive, OP, but abuse escalates a lot in pregnancy, and giving warnings like she did is a way to gauge that. Nah. I don't see anything wrong with her offer. So many women talk about their doctors not listening to them. So many women talk about how they feel more comfortable talking to women who have been through it. Considering she's an approximate age peer, and a professional peer, the idea that you might be comfortable talking to someone who is ostensibly similar is not a crazy thought. Public discourse surrounding pregnancy and childbirth does not carry the same stigma as many workplace boundary conversations. Nor do I see anything wrong with the polite way in which you deflected. You're the asshole. You were the AH for sure. This person was only trying to be nice and provide you someone you could talk to. NAH, you were happy to chat about the baby and the preparations. Susan saw that and jumped right in. She might have gone overboard, but the door was open for her to walk through it. Why is your company not hiring a sub for you instead of offloading all of your work on your coworkers? Nah. You're not TA for shutting it down when it made you uncomfortable, but I think your mom has it right. Wishing you a smooth birth experience. This is the second time we've seen each other in person, but here's what's going on with my vagina S. She went too far, IMO. If she wanted to bond over motherhood, she could have just said, if you need anything feel free to let me know. She didn't have to go into specifics. Not the asshole. Not the asshole. She assumed that she was the only person you knew who has given birth. I wonder if her pregnancy was very isolating for her, and again assumed that you were in the same spot. Still, she should have backed off the first time you told her you had it covered. Your mother is right, but there is. Nah. It's just a misunderstanding. Nah. Susan wanted to help. You don't want Susan's help. You're the asshole. She was offering to help, and you're turning it into an overly and unnecessarily dramatic event that could have been avoided with a simple thank you. Kinda harsh in my mind. You skipped over her birth story, but obviously it seems key to her wanting to be of help. You could have handled it better. Nah. She thought she was helping. You communicated your boundaries. She's moving into unprofessional, so hopefully she gets over it. Even if she was just trying to make friends, it's never okay to try and force someone into accepting your goodwill offers for anything. Not only that, but what mother about to have their first child wants to hear gloom and doom about someone else's experience? All she had to say was congratulations, and if she really needed to mention herself, say pregnancy was rough for me but I hope it goes better for you, or something like that. Not the asshole. That is a tad much for your relationship level, or lack thereof. You are entitled to your feelings, and you expressed them well. Not the